I'm Jordan Hatfield. This is Faster Film Critic. Today on the show, we talk Sinners with Kolter and Chase Fugel. Sinners is a 2025 action thriller about vampires, not ex-Mormons. The film's directed by Ryan Coogler, stars Michael B. Jordan, Miles Canton, and Haley Steinfeld. Get in. We're going cinephiling. What's up, juggalos and juggalettes? Today we're talking Sinners. Woo woo!
Oh, shit.
So, Kolter, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you were pretty excited about this film?
Very. Yeah, and it did not disappoint.
And Chase, I understand as soon as you discovered it was a supernatural horror film, you lost all interest.
Yep.
So this is going to be a fun conversation for sure. I'm going to pit you two against each other.
Oh, no.
Tell me this. What do you guys think of vampire movies in general? Are you guys fans of vampire movies?
Well, it depends on how well they're done, I think.
Okay.
It's the cop-out answer.
Cop out indeed. Chase, what's your tolerance for vampire films?
I mean, they're hard. They're really hard for me. You need to do it, like, perfect. Like, Nosferatu last year, I thought was great.
Yeah.
Let the right one in, great.
So there's really four types of vampire movies.
Yeah.
There's the classic vampire movie.
Sure.
There's the vampire comedy.
Okay, yeah.
And then there's the romance vampire movie.
Yes.
And then there's the action thriller vampire movie.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite of these groups is the gothic, dark, mythological, classic vampire tale.
Okay.
It's my favorite. Everything else I kind of struggle with.
Is there room for another one in there?
Sure. Yeah, tell me what you're thinking. What you got?
I would say the stylized vampire movies.
Okay. Yeah, give me an example of that.
Yeah, an example. So I would throw 30 Days of Night in there, where you've got kind of a unique setting. And that movie's not, if I had to compare that movie and Sinners is far superior. But 30 Days of Night capitalized on a really cool concept, which was pick a place in the world in which the sun does not come up for 30 days, man. Like, I couldn't think of a better setup for a vampire movie than that. So, and then I would throw Sinners into kind of the more stylized, or even From Dusk Till Dawn, Robert Rodriguez, where it's kind of a blending of genres.
Okay, I stand corrected. There are 5 subcategories of vampire films, and these are the main 5. And of course, there are some movies that kind of blend these different categories. But my favorite is the classic.
Sure.
The gothic, the dark, the heavier. You know, the original Nosferatu 1922, Robert Eggers' remake 2024 Nosferatu, Let the Right One In 2008, The Horror of Dracula 1958. I mean, these are great films.
Yeah.
These are great vampire films. In fact, if you haven't seen these films, I've got a little math equation for you. Take your age.
Okay.
Minus 16.
Oh, you already lost me.
The number left is the years of your life that you've completely wasted.
Well,
You've got to see these films. And why 16, you ask? And that is because, in my opinion, the cinematic age of accountability is 16. If you're under 16 and haven't seen a good movie, you've got the justifiable excuse of youth or bad parenting. But if you're over 16, man, you have got to see these movies. Am I wrong?
That's a good take.
that's pretty good.
So the classic vampire film is my favorite, but Sinners is not a classic vampire film.
No.
This is, what did you call it, Kolter? A stylized vampire film?
I would say, yeah, kind of a stylized.
You know, when I first saw the trailer for Sinners, it looked like a 30s gangster horror film starring Michael B. Jordan, and I was all in.
Yep.
And kind of like Chase, as soon as I saw the second trailer with the vampire,
Damn second trailers, yep.
I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. And Chase was definitely saying, uh-oh, because I was with him in the theater when we saw the second trailer, and he was loud, uh-oh.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It was an audible uh-oh. I think the theater heard it.
Shh. Sir, please.
But Kolter, you said you loved this film. Let's start with you, man. What'd you think? Why'd you love it?
Because it was very unique, man. I think Ryan Coogler is the kind of director that is really developing quite the range. And in this, we see kind of a unique, kind of magical realism that works, for me at least, on a lot of levels. I think this movie had a very unique spirit to it. I'm a huge blues fan, as I've told you guys before on the show. So there was some incredible cinematography. I feel like, unlike the Alto Nights, they used one actor playing 2 different roles to better effect in this movie.
Yeah, let's talk about Michael B. Jordan for a second. It's no man crush, but I think Michael B. Jordan is one of the coolest actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, this is going to sound like a brag, but I had the opportunity to meet him.
Really?
In person, and his family. Yeah, when I was working at a museum downtown in Los Angeles, him and his family came in for a art exhibit. At the end of their visit, we were walking him out, as we kind of do for high-profile guests, and man, he slapped hands, hugged all of us, looked me straight in the eye, looked everyone straight in the eye, gave a heartfelt, sincere thank you. Like, it wasn't rushed. It was genuine. His parents were equally as nice. And, yeah, man, it was one of the few celebrity interactions where I thought, this guy's awesome. Like, he's a good dude. It's funny, man, like the effect that it has. Like, I'll go see him in anything. Not because he's talented, but because he also seems like a good human being, man.
I'm really glad to hear that. I've always liked Michael B. Jordan. You know, he just exudes this coolness on screen. I don't know him personally, but I'm glad to hear that he's as cool off screen as he is on screen.
Yeah.
I like Michael B. Jordan. And, you know, you bring up Alto Nights, Robert De Niro playing two roles. I think that really hurt that film.
Sure.
And this is the exact opposite. I agree with you. This is the exact opposite. I think Michael B. Jordan here and the dual roles is really cool, and it creates an interesting storyline to follow. I really enjoyed that part of the film, for sure.
Yeah, I think Michael B. Jordan is one of those contemporary less is more actors, kind of in the same vein as Ryan Gosling, where sometimes their performances are more subtle.
I'm glad you guys like the dual role here, because I don't usually like that kind of thing. I've never seen it done in a way that I like.
Huh.
I'm also not as big of a fan of Michael B. Jordan as you guys, so maybe that plays into it.
Really? What is it you don't like about him?
I don't know what it is, because he is cool. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just sour.
So have you ever seen a dual role, an actor play two parts that you liked? Ever?
I don't think so. Mickey 17 I did like.
Okay.
That was a little different because it was like a clone. Right.
What about that Adam Sandler movie where he plays both himself and his sister? That was, that was a work of art.
Jack and Jill's a masterpiece.
How did I forget that one?
So two of us like Michael B. Jordan and can agree that his dual role here was cool. Chase, is there anything that you did like about this movie?
I think you guys could guess what I liked the most about this movie, what I can't wait to talk about.
The sex lessons?
I thought that was going to be the After Dark episode. I thought we were saving that one.
What was your favorite part? What do you want to talk about?
The shot in, would it be a barn?
Oh, hell yeah, their juke joint.
Yeah, the juke joint. The continuous shot. I think contextually it was a little bit weird when that guy from the future came in with his electric guitar.
Dude, I thought he was cool.
Yeah.
Then the camera started to move around with the music. That was a really cool shot.
So to clarify, you're talking about the scene where Preacher Boy stands up at the stage for the first time and starts singing.
Yeah.
And it's talking about how
music transcends time.
Yeah, and it can bring in both ghosts of the past and ghosts of the future.
Yeah.
And the camera goes around the room and it shows kind of black music from different cultural time periods.
Yeah, that was a really cool part.
Maybe the coolest part in the entire movie.
Yeah, that shit was badass. Yeah, that whole thing, man, where his song is like transcending time and space, highlighting different cultures and periods, and at the same time attracting this form of evil was, man, that was some cool shit.
I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the music in this film.
Yes.
Ludwig Göransson
Yeah.
is the composer, and he's composed a number of films for Ryan Coogler. He also did Oppenheimer, and he won the Oscar for Oppenheimer. A lot of talent here. I did really love the music in this film, except there were a couple scenes, and they were usually when there was a conversation between like Smoke and Beatrice, or Stack and Mary, and you get this kind of early 90s like twangy electric guitar. And every time that came on, it took me out of the film. It felt really cheesy and distracting.
Interesting. Okay.
Those sections didn't really work for me. It was too musically dated and cheesy.
Okay. I mean, I noticed it, but I think it blended in with a theme so well of what, this kind of interesting kaleidoscope of like time periods and cultures and different musics and how this music influenced that music and vice versa. So I noticed it, but it didn't take me out of it.
Other than those little parts, I thought the music in the film was great.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought the sound was great.
And I love the style of this film.
Oh, yeah.
It was such a great decision to put this film in the 1930s.
Yeah.
We already talked about Michael B. Jordan, and I do think he was great in this film, but I also think Delroy Lindo was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
When he was on screen, he stole the show.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah, he was.
I also really, really liked Omar Benson Miller as Cornbread.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun, too. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody in this cast I didn't think was in the right place, the right time. I think everybody did a really, really good job. But Delroy Lindo, man, like his character Delta Slim has definitely got kind of the stylings of Sonny Boy Williamson and how he plays the harmonica, and this film was littered with a lot of cool nods to. It sounded like basically they were just plucking songs left and right out of like Chess Records anthology, which I listen to all the time, man. So it was just, obviously I think that's why my affinity for this movie might be a little higher than your guys's. But yeah, dude, he was great.
One thing I absolutely love about this film is the first almost 3/4 is character development.
Yeah.
And the story that takes place, I think, is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you're getting to know these characters, and the interactions between them is interesting. I was fully on board for the first 3/4 of this movie.
Right.
Fully on board.
Yeah.
Then the vampire thing starts to happen.
Sure.
What's your take on that aspect, that twist in the film?
Yeah, and I think, man, if it had just been the first trailer, it would have been a lot more interesting to see how it unfolded. But because that second trailer comes out and it starts revealing the things that they should be showing us.
Yeah, I know, agreed. Just say no to second trailers.
Yeah, I know, man. Like, so I was curious to see how they were going to weave that in. I think for films like this, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to do that without it being just a touch jarring, just a little bit out of place, because, you know, I use the term kind of magical realism. Those are kind of an oxymoron almost, because those two things don't exist in the same, at least not in our world. So it's interesting to see how they're going to do that. And interesting enough, I mean, right away they establish some familiar lore about vampires. Vampires need to be invited in. So when you kind of see Merrick, played by Jack O'Connell, kind of literally dumped into the frame in front of us, and he's presumably outrunning the sun and actively smoking as he approaches this house in the middle of nowhere. I don't know that there's a seamless way to do that, especially when you spend so much time living in what seems to be a regular world, you know, a setting in Mississippi in 1932. So it's done about as well as you can do it, but it's still just a little bit kind of like somebody pushing you down the stairs a little bit when you don't expect it. Like, oh, what are you doing? What do you guys think?
I thought it was fun. I was really worried when I saw that trailer. I was hoping it wouldn't go in that direction as much as it did, but I mean, I still enjoyed it. It didn't ruin the movie for me. All that character development throughout the first half of the movie got a little bit long for me, a little bit slow. And so when it kind of picked up and went to the supernatural area, even though I didn't love it contextually so much, it was entertaining.
That's interesting that you got bored more in the first half than the second half.
Yeah.
For me, it was the opposite.
Well, yeah, you have to spend some time making your audience care about the characters. I mean, that's really key to making any of this other stuff work, which I think they do exceptionally. You're not just learning about the brothers, you're learning about their relationship with their past flings, past loves, past families. You're learning about their friends, you're learning about their dynamic, you're learning about their goals and their aspirations. And then you're getting some lore kind of sprinkled in there too. This movie none of it works if you don't care about the characters.
I think one of my favorite moments of character development in this film is when Smoke pulls the truck up to the store and he gets out and there's that little girl.
Yeah.
And she immediately sees him and kind of backs away in fear because he's got this reputation that precedes him. Mm-hmm. And he goes up to her and he's like, hey, you want to make some money? And all of a sudden she kind of perks up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll pay you 10 cents a minute if you'll sit and watch my truck.
Yeah.
And she gets all excited and she's like, okay. And he's like, no, this is a negotiation. You need to negotiate with me and 10 cents isn't good enough for you.
Right.
And she's like, 50 cents. And he's like, no, 20. That's as most I'll do. And she's like, all right. And then she sits in the truck. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
Especially juxtaposed to moments thereafter when the truck is getting robbed. The little girl honks the horn and he comes out, shoots the dude in the butt cheek, right?
Yeah.
And then turns around and finds out that he knows these guys. And so he's talking. And there's the younger kid in the back.
Right.
And after he's like, hey, guys, long time no see. How you doing? He shoots the younger kid in the leg.
Right.
And the younger kid falls down wailing, and they say, what'd you do that for? And he says, because I don't want anyone walking around telling tall tale about how they almost robbed Smoke without a limp to show for it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I just thought that whole scene was just really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it drew me into his character because he's got this side of him that is loving and kind and compassionate, and then he's got this other side that just will not tolerate any BS.
Yeah.
He's ruthless.
Yeah, for sure.
I loved it. I thought that whole scene was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Kolter. Is there anything you didn't like about Sinners?
So I think to Chase's point, I think my only nitpick would be some of the pacing in that first part. At the same time, that I took a little bit of issue with that. I understood why there was this kind of build up and then a slowing, and then a build up and then kind of a slowing. That's really my only nitpick, man. I'm a big believer I want to see more unique stories like this. I want people to go out and see this movie because I think it encourages studios and filmmakers to take bigger swings. And when I say big swing, it's not just a big swing, it's a practice big swing. There's so much crap and slop just being churned out by the studios these days. So anytime something like this comes out, I tend to maybe heap on a little bit more praise than other people do, because I want to see more movies like this. So maybe a little bit of pacing. I mean, the movie it's pushing 2.5 hours. But again, the complication comes in is if I was going to cut 15 or 20 minutes of this movie, what would I cut? And I don't know. But yeah, that's really the only thing for me. And then the fact that you're trying to weave in this supernatural element, and there's no perfect way to kind of do that without it seeming a little bit campy, a la Dusk Till Dawn, 30 Days of Night. Even if you've got a great premise and a great setup, which I think some of those movies do, that'd be the only thing. It's really, really tough to weave that in.
One thing that Dusk Till Dawn does, rather than try and weave it in, they just hard pivot.
Yeah.
The first half of that movie is drastically different than the second half of that movie.
Very
and it
much.
just embraces that hard pivot.
Yeah.
And most movies do try to weave it in slowly in some way. I totally understand what you're saying and agree with you. That can be difficult. I would also agree a weakness of the film is the pacing. And like you, Kolter, I don't know what I would cut, but I did feel that its runtime, it started to get a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
Forgive the pun.
Hey, I see what you did there.
It just felt a little long to me. Another little thing, if you don't mind me picking some nits, is, dude, enough with the CGI snakes.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Or the CGI anything.
Yeah, but the snakes are the worst, dude. The snakes are the worst. I had the same gripe in Queer. The time has come to accept the fact that we just cannot create a halfway decent CGI snake.
No.
On top of the fact that the snake in the back of the truck bit is so worn out.
Right.
Stop with the CGI snakes, please.
Yeah.
Please. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hey, man, what purpose did it serve in addition to that?
Exactly.
Foreshadowing is maybe the only thing.
Dumb.
Vampire stories, Jordan, you mentioned this up front. They've been told a million times. I do feel like Coogler made this a little bit different. He made it his own. There's, the villains / vampires in this have a perspective that's actually fairly persuasive. And I think that's unique, and we don't get enough of an approach like that. There's some familiar lore in there. There's kind of a fun scene where Mary she's kind of the lore expert. She's kind of the one that discovers these aren't I know what this is, and these are vampires. And so everybody needs to eat a clove of garlic so that we know that everyone's that's in this room is safe to be here. A little nod to the Thing there, I think, when they're testing the blood in the Thing.
Okay, yeah.
But it's interesting in that these vampires all share each other's memories and thoughts, and that they make a kind of an interesting case for joining them and becoming vampires, that's the only actual true freedom in the world is to be with them, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then we talked about that kind of centerpiece of this, that huge long shot of Preacher Boy, Sammy playing a song, awesome song. And then there's a scene later on where all the vampires are kind of out in the field in their own choreographed music, and there's this very obvious Irish influence.
So cool.
Yeah, that kind of like
super cool scene.
Yeah, it implied that maybe this guy is Irish, that he's been around since. I like that they don't dabble too much into that, but it was just such a cool element, this infusion of this musical component to basically the lore and history of African American culture, and then potential European or Irish culture. It was this kind of it was cool, and it's been such a long time since I saw something that's so deliberate and inventive. Yeah, what'd you guys think about the vampires in general? Did they do enough to make them different? Is it the same old crap? What do you think?
So I do like that they held true to some of the lore, some of the mythology of vampires, but this brand of vampires is a little bit difficult for me. Like the red in the eyes feels a little cheesy.
Okay.
The flying, when they can jump like grasshoppers across a field, like, that's a little just cheesy for me. Minus those couple of things,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I thought this really worked. Not talking about classic vampire movies, the movies that I mentioned earlier, the
Sure.
Nosferatus of the world.
Right.
I think this film is one of the best in the genre.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that.
I would put this at the tippy top of your best action thriller. I forget, what did you call it?
Kind of more stylized. Yeah.
Stylized genre. If we're going to
Yeah.
include the classic vampire films,
Sure.
then it falls down the ladder several rungs. But
Okay.
I don't know how they could have done it much better and still stayed true to the vision, to the story that Ryan Coogler was trying to tell.
Yeah.
So despite some minor criticisms, it largely worked for me. Accepting the movie for what it is, my criticisms aren't with the vampires. My criticisms are the runtime, those couple moments of cheesy music, and that damn CGI snake. Those are my complaints about this film.
Fair.
Everything else I thought was really good. Yeah,
Okay.
everything else I thought was really good.
What did you guys think about the editing?
I didn't notice any editing that was poor.
Right.
And typically good editing is editing that you don't notice.
Good point.
I think the film wouldn't have been nearly as good without such good editing.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
was amazing. I mean, you talk about the part where the vampires can kind of jump like grasshoppers across the field, and you know that that part when he first jumps, and then that lady lifts to the stage. Like that's just a little touch in there that was so cool. Just a bunch of fun stuff like that.
Dude,
I thought
good
was
point,
really
man.
cool.
It's such a smart decision. We've seen that before. Yeah, letting that play out is so cheesy. Just the implication that that's going to happen is so much smarter. And I would say also, we talk about that singular shot, you know, when Sammy's playing. There are so many other shots in which the camera is following a single character from room to room. And there's just this wonderful flow to it. And you know, we talked about this in terms of Hateful Eight. Like, you have to be, as an audience, you have to kind of get a sense of where rooms are, like where they are in this space in relation to each other in the set. And it does such a great job of doing that. But man, there's so much of that where the camera's just following characters all over the place, and it really lends itself to a sense of, you know, you're there with these characters, man. So yeah, the editing was
Badass.
Indeed. Well, enough talk, guys. Let's go ahead and rate this film. Sinners on a scale of 1 to 5. What do you give it?
I had fun. Probably not one I'll ever revisit. I thought the first half of the movie was a little bit too slow for me, and the second half was just a little bit too out there for me. So I'm going to land right at 3 stars.
I think this is a very successful blending of different genres. I think you've got Western, you've got some grindhouse, you've got some horror, and you've got some musical elements in this too. I think it's got a unique swagger, not just the movie itself, but the characters within. It's also got a cool style. I think Jack O'Connell, who plays Remick the vampire, is charming and charismatic and pretty captivating. I love this movie. I want to see more stuff like this. Please, more movies like this. So this may be a bit generous, man, but I'm going to give this movie a 5. I really, really dug it.
I love that you love this movie, Kolter. I really do. And there was a lot in this movie that I loved. I loved the setting and the vibe and the style. I loved Michael B. Jordan and the rest of the cast. I loved the music. I loved the darkness. I thought the story was great. There was just a couple of things in here that slowed it down for me and held it back. And honestly, the vampire thing, this flavor of vampire is oolong, and I'm a chai guy. It's just not my flavor of tea, and that's fine. But Rotten Tomatoes is giving this thing incredible numbers. If you're listening, I'm sure you loved it. We want to hear, what did you think of Sinners?
If you're a fan of vampire movies, but you're looking for something a little bit more atmospheric and scary, I definitely recommend Robert Eggers' 2024 film, Nosferatu. It's a remake from the original and is an ode to that same kind of gothic, classic vampire mythology, and it's definitely one you should check out.
Thank you for listening to Faster Film Critic, and please join us next week when we talk The Accountant 2. You can also follow us on Letterboxd, Cinetrack, and Instagram. Email us at fasterfilmcritic@gmail.com. Hit us up with questions, comments, feedback, or review requests, and please share this episode with your movie-loving friends.